All right. Hi. STP 1025 F15 SMTG. Subject Area 8. Supervising pipeline operations, determining interface cut operations. Given the requirements to supervise the diverting petroleum products in a operational inland petroleum distribution center system (IPDS) in a field environment, the personnel materials required for the performance task for 4 military occupational specialists qualified in the N2F Soldiers Risk Management Procedure Multi-Product Operational Pipeline System Tactical Petroleum Terminal Fuel Unit and Operation Pump Station Daily Pumping Orders and uh, Manifold System Communication Equipment personnel, protective equipment, chemical protective goggles, gloves and goggles, containment cleanup of the equipment, hydrometer cylinders, set up the hydrometers, integral thermometers, level work, surface bags, temperature, petroleum products, corrected to the American Petroleum Institute, gravity of the product, applicable material safety data sheet, facility response plan, spill prevention control, countermeasures plan, the hazards of waste, hazard material management policy, oil discharge contingency plan, if required, until the unit standing authorization procedure and full access reference material. Determine interface operations performing the beginning of the move of the pipeline to ensure the products are not commingled in the environment and equipment that are not damaged. Apply the risk management procedure under the supervise the risk management process, risk controls, command the guidance directed by the higher headquarters. The excess variable hazard continuous of the report risk reduction measures appropriate for the chain of command. Ensure environmental stewardship measures the following according to the critical task 10192 F2401. Ensure personal read and understand installation, standard operation orders, requirement, requisition, storing, handling, and disposing of hazardous material. Enforce wearing of the appropriate personnel protective equipment as required. Ensure proper testing items, hydrometer sample bottle cylinder are on hand and an appropriate product of the pipeline. Verify both products carry the appropriate API gravities, converting the existing line to the temperature prior to taking the sample. Supervising personnel taking the line samples, taking the first line of the sample 20 minutes before expected time of the interval arrival, then to every 5 minutes after the 5 minutes before expected time of the interface arrival. Before beginning 5 minutes before expected arrival time, samples are taken each minute. Ensure when the interface arrives, the line samples are taken 2 to 3 minutes per minute. The samples are taken in intervals of 1 minute or less. Sample line may be left open by inflowing. Ensure representative sample during the actual change. Ensure the API gravity is determined for each of the samples taken. Notify the personnel and switching manifold when interface arrives. Have the interface routed to the contaminated fuel module. Always ensure the flow by opening the new path for flow before closing a path. F. Notify the personnel switching the manifold when the interface is passed. When sampling indicates the interface is passed, has 2 or more samples having been same the visual and gravity characteristics compatible with new batch specifications. The batch is directed by the appropriate fuel and the following contaminated fuel module is stopped. Ensure the valves are open and closed as required by the operational orders. Maintain communication with the chain command rendering status reports as required to unit and policy. Ensure the samples are taken to the laboratory after each product switch. Ensure the components are properly stored. C. The condition standards apply to the risk management procedure. Ensure the environmental stewardship measures are followed according to the critical task 10192 F2401. Ensure personal reading and understand installation stop of the operation procedures, operation orders, requirements, requisitions, storing, handling, and disposing of hazardous material, and first wearing of the appropriate personnel protective equipment. Ensure proper testing of items, hydrometer sample bottle, and cylinder on hand of the appropriate product of the pipeline. Verify the products are corrected by the API gravities converted in the existing line temperature prior to the TAM. Taking sample, supervised personnel taking the sample. And maintain communications with the chain of command, rendering the status of the reports as required by the unit policy. Ensure components are properly stored. Ensure that samples are taken to the laboratory after each of the products switches. Evaluation score: the soldier go if the performance measures were passed. Scores no go if the performance measures failed. If the score is no go, the soldier was done wrong and how to do it correctly. Field manual 1067-1 of the visual signs. TM 56630211810 and related TM 13P. Supervised pipeline operations. Given the requirements to supervise the pipeline pumps on the 24-hour basis of the field, environmental personnel materials required to perform the task. 4 military occupational specialists, military MOS qualified 92F soldier storage tanks, operation pipeline within 800 per gallon minutes, 9 line pump lines, pump station, 600 gallons per minute. Transfer the fluid pump, communication equipment, all the necessary risk management procedures applicable to material safety data sheets, personnel protective equipment, the fire extinguisher, fuel, oil, rags, pencils, facility response plan, spill prevention control, countermeasure plan, the unit's hazardous waste material and management policies under unit standing on the operation procedures, daily pumping orders, DA Form 2404, equipment inspection maintenance worksheet, DA Form 5988E, equipment inspection maintenance worksheet, EGA, DA Form 4818, petroleum products pump station operation log, EDA Form 5464R, petroleum products pipeline leakage report, full access to all reference, supervise the petroleum pipeline pumps and station operation according to the established pumping orders without commingling of the products damaging to the equipment of the environment. If danger to failure to perform the task correctly results into the equipment or injury or to the person of death of two personnel. Apply risk procedures, understanding the supervisor risk process, risk control command guidance directed by the higher headquarters, success barriers, variable, higher hazardous, continuous, and report risk and risk reduction measures appropriate to the chain of command. Ensure environmental stewardship measures are followed by the according critical task 101-92F2401. Ensure personnel read and understand the unit installation stop of the standard operation order requirements and requisitions, storing, handling, and disposing of hazardous material. Enforce wearing of the appropriate personnel protective equipment and is required to supervise before, during, and after operation. Preventive maintenance check services on the system components according to the unit standard operation procedures. Appropriate technical manuals. Ensure personnel recorded faults found while performing preventive maintenance check services on the DA Form 2404, DA Form 5988E. Review daily pumping orders identify starting the time, qualifying route, destination of the product. Daily pumping orders will include the type of the fuel, batch numbers, destination of each of the batch, amount of the fuel in the batch, estimated size and interface, estimated times of the arrival, interface of the terminal, starting and stopping of the times of all pumping operations, type of the interface with the pipeline pumping system, pressure of the pipeline flow rates. Ensure the pump station is ready to operation. Check the ground for the pump, check for the fire extinguisher, check for the communications, check to ensure the mainline, baseline, side valves of the receiver launcher are in proper position. Check the strainer is open and ready for the operation. F. The ensure all safety environmental precautions are taken. Supervise and pumping station operation. 8. Ensuring pump operation according to the unit standard operation procedures. Daily pumping order. Mainline pumping units operation temperature must be at 120 prior to the putting on the line. This is done at idle speed approximately 80 to 800 to 1,000 RPMs. Allow 20 to 30 minutes warm up. Monitor pressure gauges, measures, and corrected readings. Draw samples of the testing, conducting scraper operations as required. Ensure DA Form 4818 is completed. Report interface arrival. Remove the daily pumping during arrival of time. The product interface, ensuring the interface operations are performed in accordance with the standard operation procedure. Ensure the pumps are shut down properly conditioned as stated in the pumping order. Pipeline will shut down. Note the pipeline will shut down under the packed or slack conditions according to the daily pumping orders. Maintain the files of the pumping station operation. File the records as minimum and should be maintained in the daily pumping orders. DA Form 418 DA Form 5464R. Provide hourly report according to daily pumping orders of the unit standard operation procedure. Batch number, line temperature, atmospheric temperature, suction pressure, and discharge pressure. Conduct pipeline controls. Pipeline patrols. Pipeline patrols should be sent out often and determine the type of each of the day so that no one predict when the patrol may be specific area. Observe the operation, any safety of the environmental infraction. Stop of the operations immediately after any of the violation found and correct them. Maintain communication chain of the command, rendering the status reports as required for the unit policy. Maintain the records of the mainline pumping stations, operations order, and standard operation provided to the supervisor completing the shift. See the task and standards for evaluation, preparation, applied risk management, performance procedures, ensured environmental stewardship measures are followed according to the critical task 101-92F2401. Ensure personnel ready and understand unit installation, standard operation orders, requirements, requisitions, storing, handling, disposing of hazardous material. Enforce the wearing of the appropriate personnel if equipment is required. Supervising before, during, after operation, perform maintenance check services on the system components according to standard authorization, appropriate technical manuals, ensure personnel record faults and found in the performing preventive maintenance check services on the DA Form 2404, DA Form 5988E, review daily pumping orders, ensure the pumping station ready for the operation, supervise pumping station operation, provide hourly report accordingly to the daily pumping order in the unit standard authorization procedure, conduct a pipeline patrol, observe operations for any safety environmental infractions, stop them immediately if any of the violations are found incorrect, then maintain the communication in the chain of command, rendering status reports required by the unit policy, maintain the records of the mainline pump, the station authorization according to the authorization order, unit in standard authorization procedure, provided to the supervisor on completion of the shift. Score soldier if go if the performance measure is passed, no go if the performance measure is failed. No go, it was something was done wrong and show and recorrect the soldier by doing it correctly. DA Form 2404, 1418, 564R, DA Form 58988E, Field Manual 1061, TM 10 4320307, 10 TM 5 4320305, 10 DPAM 75080, and Field Manual 3100.12, 3100.4. Supervise installation of petroleum valves and pipeline sections. Given the requirement to supervise the maintenance installation of the operational inland petroleum distribution system and the field environmental personnel materials required to perform the task are 2 military occupational specialists to assist the operational pipeline system and the inland petroleum distribution system and pipeline sections pre-selected for the pipeline hose tracking, route, and risk management procedure applicable to material safety data sheets, personnel, protective equipment, communication equipment, fire extinguisher, spill containers, repair clamps over the clamp, half saddle clamps, tools, holes, installation, repair, assembly, cutting the groove in the machine, pipeline, tapping equipment, facilities response plan, the spill prevention control countermeasure plan, and the unit hazardous waste management policy unit, the standing authorization daily pumping order, DA Form 5464R, petroleum products pipeline leakage report, and full access to reference material, supervising the maintenance, installation, monitoring of the petroleum pipeline sections, ensuring the fuel leaks are detected, repair of the aid by without injury to the personnel, damage to the equipment, of the pollution of the environment. The danger of the failure to perform the task correctly may result in the damage to equipment of the injury, death of personnel. Warning that the consistent fire hazard explosion exists in the pipeline because of the fuel. Repair teams should have the explosimeter to determine the explosive toxic in the air before entering. When disconnecting the pipeline to replace the damaged pipes and the fittings. When the line breaks occurs, immediately shut down the line, close the closest block valves on each of the side, break the capture as much of the fuel as possible before it becomes a fire hazard. Every open could be a potential fire. Firefighting troops should be accompanying the repair crews on the major repair assignments. Apply the risk management procedure, understanding the supervisor risk management process, risk control command guidance directed to higher headquarters, access variable hazard continuous report risk and risk reduction measures appropriate to the chain of command, ensure environmental stewardship measures and followed according to the critical task 10192 F2401, ensure personnel ready and understand the unit installation standard authorization orders requirement requisites, storing, handling, and disposing of hazardous materials. 4. Enforce wearing protective appropriate personnel equipment is required, ensure proper maintenance, perform the inland petroleum distribution system components according to this standard authorization procedure. Serve the maintenance of the valves according to the field manual, technical manual. Supervise the scraper authorization. Conduct the scraper operations according to daily pumping order in the unit standard authorization procedure. Notify the district dispatch office when the scraper is launched and received, and monitor the pressure gauge of the meters and the correct readings. Monitor the time takes to travel in the next pump station and the receiving point. Notify the dispatch office if the scraper does not reach a receiving point on the time. Supervising the pipe and the patrols environmental equipment for the patrol of such DA Form 5464 spill container control shovels and absorbent material footing and tools of the temporary repairs. Maintain the communication with the district dispatch office at all times. Notice the district dispatch office of any leaks, pilferage, signs of sabotage with the pipeline trace. Complete the DA Form 5464R required supervisors temporary repairs to the pipeline. Notify the district dispatch office repair and type of the fitting that was used. supervisor and completed with the DA Form 5464R of the repair service were performed. Supervised installation of the inland petroleum distribution system line aluminum pipeline section made of on-the-spot corrections necessary according to the standard operation procedures. A constant fire hazard of the explosion exists and the pipeline becomes the fuel. Repair team should be using explosive meter to determine how explosive toxic an area is before entering. When the disconnecting pipeline to replace damaged pipes and fittings. When the line breaks occurs, immediately shut down the line and close the closest block valves on each side of the break to break the capture as much as the fuel possible before it becomes a fire hazard. Every opening could be a potential fire. Firefighting troops should be accompanying the repair crews on the major fire repair assignment. All major repairs will be under the direct supervision of the pipeline dispatch officer in charge, the OIC. No working requiring connecting replacing components will be done without authorization of the pipeline dispatch officer in charge. Enforcing safety measures prior to the break line pipeline. Keep all the vehicles of a safe distance from a leak. Appropriate leak from the withdrawal of the side or windward side. Do not approach the leak from a lower level. Fuel vapors flow downhill. Know how the administered first aid of the burns. How to give an artificial respiration. Make sure that you are adequately first aid material, including burn ointment and blankets. Wear leak-proof synthetic rubber boots with a standing in fuel. Using every precaution preventing striking sparks, replacing piping fittings. Use the sparkless brass hammers when replacing snap joint couplings. Enforce observe no smoking rules. Notify. Never try to weld pipe holes. Use clamps. Cover an area of the petroleum fire prevention foam, even if the repairing of the leak of the break or salvage of the leak or break or salvaging of the fuel. And they are remaining potential dangers for several days. Guards should be posted there. Should be monitored for the area expensive as required. Okay, B. Performance steps. Permanent repairs, coupling replacement. Make sure the firefighting equipment is handy. Stop pumping operation. Close gate valves on each side of the faulty coupling. When required, draw fuel from the pipe by using draining assembly. The tapping into the pipeline using the tapping machine. 1 mile of 6-inch pipe holds approximately 195 barrels or 8,185 gallons of fuel. After removing the fuel pipeline, attached come along to each of the side of the coupling. Approximately 5 feet of the coupling on each of the pipeline section. Place box 4x4 by 2 on each side between the come along chain and the pipe. By doing this, you will be able to remove the coupling at the same time to keep the pipeline separating prior to the putting of the new coupling. If required, move over the coupling leak clamp and take over the 4 large side bolts for temporary repair. Was made. The catch spilled with the fuel under the container. Remove the split ring coupling of the gasket. Check the pipe with the grooves, fray ends of the forms. Substance that may be causing the leakage. Check the coupling drift of the pans for the wear and coupling gaskets for the possible causes for leakage. If there's no sign of damage to the split ring of the coupling, then replace the gasket. Remove the old gasket. Replace it with a new gasket. Put a thin coal of grease on each of the gasket prior to the placing of the gasket in the splitting ring coupling. Ensure pipeline sections are aligned with free of any foreign material. Place the split ring coupling under the bottom of the pipe section to ensure the coupling is seated in the pipeline grooves. Close the coupling over the pipe and drive the drift pin into the couplings, locking split ring coupling. Clean up the hazardous waste that may occur during the repairs. Notify the dispatcher completion of repairs upon opening the gates. Slow to put up the pressure gauge on the pipeline. Start pumping again. Check the new couplings for leak pipe. The replacement. Move the firefighting equipment into the area. Stop the pumping operations. Close the gate valves on each side of the piping section to replace when required. Draw the fuel pipeline using the draining assembly. Tapping the pipeline in the tapping machine. 1 mile 6 inches hold approximately 195 barrels, 8,185 gallons of fuel. After removing the fuel in the pipeline break line and removing the coupling at both ends of the pipe section will be replaced. Remove the damaged pipe of the section. Replace the new pipe. When putting in the new section of the pipe, use new gasket split ring coupling. Clean up any hazardous waste that may accrue during the repairs. Notify the dispatcher completion of the repairs. Open the gate valves valves slowly to put pressure back into the pipeline. Start the pump again. Check out the new section of the pipeline for coupling and leaks. Supervise the test procedure pressurizing pipeline on the new installed sections for leaks according to the standard operation procedure. Evaluation preparation. See tasks and conditions and standards. The performance measures are as applied risk management procedure. Ensured environmental stewardship measures that are followed according to critical task 10192 F2401. Ensure personnel read and understand installation standard operation orders or requirements, requisites, and storing, handling, disposing hazardous material. Enforce wearing appropriate personnel protective equipment. Ensure the proper maintenance is performed in the inland petroleum distribution system components as according to the unit's standard operation procedure. Supervise installation of the inland petroleum distribution system, aluminum pipe section, making on-the-spot corrections as necessary according to the unit standard operation procedures. Supervise technical test procedures, pressurized pipeline of newly installed sections, leaks according to the standard operation procedure. Score a go or score a no-go. If a no-go, then what was done wrong and how do you correct it? DA Form 5464R, Field Manual 1061, 1067-1, Field Manual 5482, TAM 1038, 35-2, 3113, Field Manual 3112, Field Manual 3104. Okay, supervisor transfer operations. Given the requirements to supervise the tank, farm, manifold valves to set up the transfer operation field, environmental personnel materials required to perform the task, form material, occupational specialized qualified in the N2F soldiers operating petroleum terminal and transfer order personnel protective equipment, risk management procedures, applicable material safety data sheets, communication equipment facility response plans, prevention control countermeasure plan, communication equipment, petroleum product sampling, gauging in the kit, and DA Form 27651 press request and issue turn in DA Form 3643 daily issue for the petroleum products DA Form 4193 petroleum products pump station hourly operation orders DA Form 2404 equipment inspection maintenance worksheet, DA Form 5988E, equipment inspection maintenance worksheet, and unit standing operation procedures, full access reference material completing the transfer operation to the terminal without injury of the personnel, damage to the equipment of the environment. Review the hazardous material identification sheets, the material safety data sheets on the product beginning the transfer. Failure to perform the task correctly may result in the damage to the equipment, the injury to death of the personnel. Apply the risk management procedures, understand supervisor risk management procedures, risk and controls and command guidance directed by the higher headquarters, access variable hazard, continuous report risk and risk reduction measures appropriate to the chain of command. Ensure environmental stewardship measures are followed with according to the critical task 10192 F2401. Ensure personnel read the understanding of the understanding unit installation standard operation order requirement requisition, storing, handling, disposing hazard material, enforcing wearing of the appropriate personnel protective equipment is required, supervising before, during, after operation, preventive maintenance check services on system components according to the standard operation procedures, appropriate technical manuals, ensuring personal record faults of the performing the preventive maintenance check services on the DA Form 2404, DA Form 5988E of the equipment maintenance equipment inspections. Ensure the general safety procedures are followed. Position of fire extinguisher within 5 to 10 feet. Post no smoking signs within 50 feet. Ground bound all the equipment. Use spill containers. Protect yourself other than the fumes and vapors. Proceed pumping order in operations offices. Review pumping order to determine the tanks to be used, valves to be opened, set up the manifold according to the pumping order, ensure the firefighting equipment is present and serviceable, supervise the transport operation according to daily pumping order and the unit standard operation procedures, sample and gauge the product in each before and after receipt. All dissimilar product must be flushed in the common lines manifold with the same product being received issued before opening gauge is taken. Set up operation. Start to slowly, carefully observe the pressure gauges to prevent the exceeding working pressure. Check the tank vents proper operation before product is pumped out into and out of the tank. The valve is operational if it cannot detect the fuel emissions for the smell or hear the vent clapping. During the continuous pumping operations, ensure the receiving tank remains open until another tank is open. All hatches must be closed unless gauging and sample. If the pipeline is not used, the tank valves will normally be closed except where they need to be left upon relieve the pressure caused by the thermal expansion. Maintain the communications before the personnel operating system at all times. Never use the water bottom unless the authorized local commander. Ensure no matter one tank is the opening of the line of the system unless absolutely necessary for operation. Ensure all tanks are kept as full as practicable to reduce evaporation. Ensure proper tools to include the keys and locks and valves, hatchets, access bits, and available work site. Observe all petroleum basic safety procedures when conducting operations. Observe entire system of the leaks for other unusual operation problems. Stop transfer operation immediately with the problem. Observe if the tank begins with a leak. If it contents, must be transferred to another tank at once, and must be and leak must be reported. Never force an open or closed gate. When the gate valve is open, closed wheel should be turned back into the quarter or a ton. Always double check the valve to make sure the correct one of the open and closed. The flow of the in to and out of the tank must be verified as soon as possible at the start of the operation. Read automatically tank gauges 15 minutes after the start of operation and periodically after that. Do not gauge JP8 tanks manually while they are being filled or emptied. Use extremely caution when gauging other fuel tanks. Inspect empty tanks before they are receiving assigned product. If the tank is dirty, report if your supervisor drained any water present. If the water bottom is present, then keep the water level below the tank inlet. Water test new tanks before they are used. Receive if only one tank of the item at a time. Before taking the rough gauge on all tanks except those receiving JP8 every hour to prevent the overflows, prevent poor or cumulative receipts. Do not take ullages, water soundings, temperatures, samples. On any tank receiving JP8 unless it is 13 minutes after pumping has stopped and flow has ceased. According to Military Standard 3004A, it states that 30 minutes of a waiting period is to gauge any of the tank leads received aviation products. When surfacing the products getting near fuel full level opening enter another tank valve, single the personal gauging and then closing the tank, close off the full tanks. Allow 5% of the tank capacity of the vapor space. And when pumping the gas line or JP8 into the tank, limit the flow of the rate 1/4 to the 1/5 of the maximum flow of the rate until the inlet covered by at least 3 feet of the product. After the product has been time settled, drained and away from the water from the tanks to composite a sample submission of the laboratory to dispose of the water according to the local cylinder operation prevention and environmental regulations. Note, according to Military Standard 3004A, it is minimum setting period of 6 hours is required for all aviation fuels, automotive, gasoline, diesel fuels. Drain any of the water of the tanks. Ensure operators maintaining the DA Form 4193 of the pumping operation maintain the DA Form 3643 as required. Report completion of transfer to the operation office. Supervise the after operation preventive maintenance check services or something else. Petroleum PMCA. Internal transfer according to daily pumping order of the unit standard operation procedure. Ensure all valves are opened and closed according to the pumping orders. Ensure product that has been timed to settle according to Military Standard 3004. States a minimum setting period of 6 hours is required for all aviation, automotive, gasoline, diesel fuels. Drain any water from the tank to tank composite samples. Submission laboratory. Dispose of the water according to the local standard operation procedure, environmental regulations. Ensure all after operation preventive maintenance check services. Review the DA Form 2404, DA Form 598E for equipment maintenance inspections services. Report completion of the transfer operation offices. Maintain records of transfer operation according to the operation order unit standard operation procedure. Provide the upon completion shift evaluation preparation. See the tasks and standards. Performance measures are go or no go. Apply to the risk management procedure. Environmental stewardship measures are followed according to critical insurance rate reading and understand installation standard operation orders requirement requisitions storing, handling, and disposing of hazardous material. Enforce wearing of the appropriate personnel protective equipment. Supervise before, during, and after operation preventive maintenance check services. One system components of according to the unit standard operation procedures, technical manuals, ensure personnel record faults and while performing preventive maintenance check services on the DA Form 2404 and DA Form 598E, equipment inspection, maintenance, preservation. Ensure general safety procedures are followed. Receive pumping in order for the operations office. Receive the pumping in order to determine the tanks to be used, valves to be opened. Set up the manifold system according to the pumping order. Ensure the firefighting equipment is present and serviceable. Service transfer operation according to the daily pumping order, the standard operation procedure. Supervise after the operation and preventive maintenance check services. Intermittent transfers according to the daily pumping order, the standard operation procedures. Maintain records of transfer operations according to the operation order, unit standard operation procedures. Supervisor upon the completion of the shift. Evaluation score or no go, score solid go if the performance is passed. Soldier no go if the performance has failed. The DA Form 2404, 2765 1, DA Form 3643, DA Form 4193, DA Form 598, 5988E, DA Form 71021, Field Manual 1067-1, Military Standard 3004 A. Related field manual 301.12, 301.4, field manual 548.2, TM 5, 38, 35, 22, 13, and P, TM 5, 43, 20, 305, and 10. Supervised Tactical Petroleum Terminal Operations, TPT, Tactical Petroleum Terminal Operations. Given the requirement to supervise the assembly operation of the Tactical Petroleum Terminal System and field environmental personnel materials required to perform the task of 43 military occupational specialists, MOS qualified, 92 of soldiers transport equipment in the primarily components of the Tactical Petroleum Terminal, with consisting of 3 fuel units, the tank farm assembly with 2 fuel, 50,000 barrel fabricated tanks, each tanker, truck, receipt, manifold, fuel dispensing assembly, transfer, hose line assembly, 6-4, suppression assembly, optional tank configuration, fuel unit supported, assembly, petroleum products, communication equipment, risk management procedures, material safety data sheet, personnel protective equipment, communication equipment, fire extinguisher, spill contamination, cleanup kit, equipment, facility response plan, spill prevention control countermeasure plan, oil discharge contingency plan, if and required, oil written operation orders, unit standing authorization orders, the Tactical Petroleum Terminal Authorization Daily Pumping Order, the DA Form 1804, Petroleum Sample, DA Form 3643, Daily Issue Petroleum Products, the DA Form 2765, 1 Railroad Issue and Return in DA Form 4193, Petroleum Product Pump Station Hourly Operation Order, Operation Record, DA Form 2404, Equipment Inspection Maintenance Worksheet, DA Form 598A, Equipment Inspection Maintenance Worksheet, EGA, In-Fuel Access Reference and Material. Supervised Assembly Operation Preventive Maintenance Check Services and the Fuel Accountability Quality Service and Semblance to the Terminal Petroleum or Tactical Petroleum Terminal without damage to the equipment and injury, personnel, pollution, environment. Apply risk management procedure, understand, supervise risk management process, risk control command guidance directed to the higher headquarters of assess variable has continuously report risk reduction measures appropriate to the chain of command, environmental stewardship measures are filed accordingly, critical task 101-92-F2-401. Ensure personnel read and understand unit installation standard authorization requirements of requisition, storing, handling, and disposing of hazardous materials. Enforcing wearing and appropriate personnel protective equipment, supervised before, during, and after authorization performance maintenance check services system components according to standard authorization procedures, appropriate technical manuals, ensure personnel record faults found in the performing preventive maintenance check services, DA Form 2404, DA Form 5988E, enter communication meds monitoring communication flow in accordance with the standard authorization procedure, communication operation enclosure instructions, ensure enclosure internal cleanliness of all equipment, valves, and set fittings and hoses installing, sand rocks, rugs, tool, clothing, so forth left inside while ending up the block, flow damaging equipment. Positive action must be taken to avoid entry to the dirt contamination. Leave the protective cap supply plugs in place and actual ready to be taken by make the connection. Inspect the parts being assembled to remove the foreign materials prior to the close of the joint. Note that coupling of the clamps are normally shipped loose within the gasket package separately on assemblies. They are clamped in place with the gasket installed. The gaskets may be slipped over and pipe the fitting ending of the coupling clamp and placed over them. Stem packing on the valves normally shipped on the gland nuts and nut taken up tightly. It is necessary that the gland be tightened before the valve is put under pressure if the test is operation. Supervise the placement of the major end of the items in accordance to the way of the layout of the plant, ground, and bottom equipment at the time of the installation to prevent the explosion fire. Install floodlight set and install floodlights earlier in the erection program necessary to permit the work at night. Do not attempt the floodlight set on the loose, unstable soil or on grades that are more than 5 degrees. In floodlight setting topples serve the damage to the equipment, injury of the loss of occurrence. Service location floodlight. Ensure the ground level does not have the grade of more than 5 degrees. Ensure installation preparation of floodlight site of the according to the equipment TM 96230 21114. Ensure operation procedures are performed according to standard authorization procedures TM 96230 21114. Install 5,000 barrel or 50,000 gallon fabric collapsible tanks. Perform preventive maintenance check services. Install the assigned pad. Assemble a prudency accordance with TM 10 38 35 231 13 TM 10 54 32 19 12. Check all the hose tears and abnormalities in form of the shape of the tanks. Check all the shelf life of the tanks, manufacture date, inspection date, release data from the depot APS. Be sure to cut a small trench from the drain hose prior to the unrolling with the end of the tank under which the hose will pass. Ensure that one of the drain is tank located over the low spot is padded the tank orientation such as the top fitting intended to pump the suction, one of the closest in the same drain. Ensure the tank pad is free, sharp object smooth prior to the rolling out of the tank. Ensure all warnings and cautions noted in TM 10, 5430 through 1912 observed and abided. Inspect all connections and verify correct installation, flange, coupling, gaskets, clamps, lamps, and security and cam lock devices. Install a 600 gallon per minute pump according to the site plans of TM 54320-30510. Ground pumping bonding. Pumping must be grounded at the time of installation to prevent an explosion fire. Install the pump as far as away from the tanks as serves the bridging the suction hose of the deforming of the tank top. Pumping the engine and exhaust frames out of the distance from the tanks, enhancing the safety. Install fire suppression according to the site plan TM 4210-23513. Critical task 10192 F230 2350. Supervised setup of the fuel dispensing assembly. Make sure all hose line fittings and valves are cleanly internally prior to connecting. Foreign materials or disrupted operations, damaged equipment. Ensure preventive maintenance. Check services and equipment inventory conducted, ensuring assembly and procedures are followed accordingly. TM5 3835 220 13 and P. Ensure proper position installation of filter separators, pumps and meters, strainers, adapters, couplings, hoses, dispensing nozzles, inspecting all connections and verifying correct installation, flanges, coupling, gaskets, hose, clamps, and security of cam lock devices. Supervised installation tanker truck, receipt, manifold, hose line, valve fittings. Note the T-assembly used in the tanker truck, receipt, and manifold is created in partially assembled condition to the facility packaging and shipping. And some assembly is required to place the unit in operation condition prior to the installation. The tanker truck, receipts, manifold should be installed only under the direction of the operation management. Ensure T-assemblies are positioned and assembled near their respective installation sites. Make sure all the hose line fittings and the valves are clean and internally. Foreign materials or disrupt operation, damaged equipment. Ensure tanker truck of the receipt manifold components are properly positioned and installed. The respective installation positions are shown on the layout plan. 11. Supervise installation of the switching manifold. Make sure all the hose line fitting the valves are cleanly internally and foreign materials are mismade. Disrupt operations of damaged equipment. Ensure the installation of the switching manifold is laid out according to the site plan. Ensure switching manifold components are positioned over the respective installation plans, connecting the inspection of all items of the damage and cleanliness quantities as required for the set. Conducting the inspection of all connections to verify the correct installation of the flanges, coupling, gaskets, clamps, and security of the cam lock devices. Supervise installation contaminated fuel module, hose line, assembly, valves, fittings, installation. Install 50,000 gallons collapsible fabric tanks, and be sure elbows, hoses, valves, and supply tanks are installed. Warning: grounding bonding pump must be grounded at a time installation prevention and explosion of the fire. Installation pump as far as the tanks to supervise surface of the bridging of the suction hose, deforming of the tank top, pumping engines, exhaust foams, and pumping engine and exhaust fumes at hot distances in the tank, enhancing safety. Ensure both the valves open to allow the free flow contaminated fuel into the module. C. Ensure the 350 gallon per minute the pump is prepared to according to TN 104320 3024 14. Ensure the personnel observing all warnings, cautions when preparing pumping operation. Inspect all connections to verify the correcting inspection. Check the quick disconnect gaskets in place of the connected to the cam lock adapter. Note liberally apply petroleum into the gasket, inducing surface coupling clamps to preventing and during installation. Then pull the coupling gasket over the one grooved end of each of the matting joint. Ensure the gasket is properly mounted over the full circumference of sealing forces. Position coupling clamp over the gasket, maintaining alignment of the maintaining cut parts and locking coupling and lag up securely. 2. Ensure drip pans absorbent in the material storage drums in place so that they will be available for use needed. Check all the connections. Verify the correct installation, flanges, coupling, gaskets, clamps, and security cam lock device. Supervise the installation, transfer, hose line, assembly, valves, and fittings, inspection, connections to verify the correction, inspection, supervising tightening coupling clamps to the gate of the valves, being carefully to damage the gasket, verifying the connection of the gasket and the gate valves of the T's. To verify the connection, transfer, hose line quantity is required between the T's and receipt manifold assemblies. 14. Supervise installation optional tank configuration, hose lines, valves, fittings, and check the connection between the elbow to the 50,000 gallon tanks. Check the connection of the 6-inch suction hose or assembly to the elbow. Check the connection of the 6-inch suction hose between the 6-inch suction hose assemblies and Y assemblies. Ensure the correct hosing lengths are installed. Make sure the correct bend and radius are maintained. Check the connection of the 6-inch hose between the 6-inch hose assembly and the Y assembly. Check the connection for the reducer coupling adapter to the T assembly. Check the T to the reducer. Check the elbow to the tank. Check the C 6-inch discharge hose assembly and the 6-inch gate valves assembly. Check the installation of the Y assembly to the 6-inch gate valves. Check the installation of the 6-inch discharge hose to the Y assembly and 6-inch T assemblies. Check the connection of the reducer to the 6-inch T assembly. Ensure the connection is complete between the adapter and reducer. Check the connection from the T adapter inspection and all the connections of the correct installation. Supervise and placement of the safety signs. Set up no smoking signs sitting around the fuel dispensing fuel receipt area. Place a no smoking sign within 50 feet of any system and equipment containing flammable fuels. Minimize the threat of the smokers, creating a well-marked smoking permitted as well as and away from the facilities. Make them the only way is the way which smoking is permitted. Set up disconnecting hose and moving the vehicle signs at the fuel dispensing and receiving areas. Place the following safety signs appropriate locations. Danger hot surfaces, pump engines, dangers, moving parts of pump engines, danger, wearing goggles and gloves at the sample position. Watch your step in congested areas. Preparing a tactical petroleum terminal for operation. Conducting checks according to the standard operation procedure. Anytime the unit has been shut down for the extended period of the verify through inspection should be taken in the recommendation inspection guideline for the checklist, including but not limited to the following: all flanges coupling is closed and secure for all valves in closed position. Hose live properly, no kinks, free end of the hose weighted down to the sandbags. All equipment grounded and bounded. Pumps and have been checked and ready for the operation. Hose lay properly on tank tops. Tank berms intact, drain shuts, floodlights in place, operable, water supply secure, meters reset, range pools properly in place, fire suppression equipment in place and ready for use, first aid equipment intact, no smoking and other safety signs in place, keeping facility intact, area free of trash and hazard, roadway open, operational personnel known as individual function, communication system functional. Supervise the commission of the tactical petroleum terminal system. Notify the term the commission is meant to include the purging air and initial line filling. Commissioning is not intended to include complete fill of the storage tanks. Supervise purging system. Venting gas during the purge. The vent of the gas during the purging operation may be the flammable mixtures of the fuel vapors and air. Special precautions to eliminate ignition sources for the area that must be taken note. The process for removing the air of the system will cause a relatively high venting of the rate from the tank of the vents. The vent gauge is likely to be flammable due to the mixing of the fuel vapors droplets. Special precautions must be taken during the condition. Internal dirt and waste, internal dirt and rock, construction waste, so forth, ruin operational equipment, causing the operating failures, eliminating the contaminants from before commencing the operations. Note: restrict the flow rates to the under the 200 gallon per minute maximum during the purging and inline operations. High and turbulent rates within the mixed air with the fuel extending the purging procedures. Low rates will discharge the generation of static electrical charges. 2. Purge fill fuel unit. Each fuel unit is fulfilled by the using same procedure. Supervising purging filling of the supply hose of contaminated fuel module. Verifying the purging filling of the supply lines. Very low flat rates, approximately 50 gallons per minute. Maximum must be maintained during the purge filling. Operational unit air has been fully purged, but the meter skid assembly upon the stream hose line and high airflow. The meter assembly as discharge lines, tanks, and lines of the fuel dispensing system back to the tank or farm assembly. Warning: fuel splash and spills. Splashes and spills can cause eye injury and skin irritation. Wear a shield and improve gloves. Warning: a hose whip. Hoses may tend to move rapidly. Whip if not weighed down. Pressure changes can cause the hose to whip and injure personnel. Supervising purging discharge lines of fuel tanks, verifying completion of the commissioning. Supervise operation of tactical petroleum terminal. Supervise the transfer of the fuel tank. Warning: overfilling the fabric tanks does not overfill the fabric collapsible tanks. All spilled through the vent and possible rupture. Major spill could result. Check the commissioning procedures have been completed to avoid the danger of to the equipment. Feed the rates that the fuel unit should not exceed 800 gallons per minute. Pressure of the switch manifold should not exceed 150 psi. Pressure pump discharge pressure should not exceed 75 psi. The procedures assume for the fuel is flowing associated with the pipeline to one of the fuel units. Ensure the samples are taken in specification fuels and contaminated fuel module. Ensure the receiving of the fuel pump pipeline is conducting according to the daily pumping order and the unit standard authorization procedure. Ensure the receiving of the fuel of the tanker truck is conducted according to the standard authorization procedure. Warning: tanker truck movement. Do not allow the truck to move away without disconnecting the hose line. A spill could result. Ensure discharging from the fuel of the tanker farm module assembled from the fuel dispensing assembly the conducting according to standard authorization procedure. Performance steps. Warning: dispensing of assembly operation procedure. Make sure that the pressure control valves of functioning. High pressure can result in hose whipping, splashing back, spills, ground binding. The system dispensing must be grounded and bounded. The receipt vessels prior to the opening of the vessel dispensing static electricity could have cause a fire and explosion. Warning: no smoking. Enforcing no smoking rules on the personnel, including the drivers, the south side of the tactical petroleum terminal. Warning: vehicle disconnect. Make sure the vehicle are disconnected from the dispensing assembly before moving. Warning: stop the vehicle's engine. Stop all vehicle engines while loading fuel. Note: the rate of the discharge from the dispensing assembly is governed within 6-inch pressure control valve, which is 30 psi, located in the recirculating line of the dispensing set. It is intended that the control valve of the dispensing pressure is at a maximum 30 psi. There must be the good communication between dispensing operating supervisor and the pump operator. Ensure the transfer fuel of the tanker farm assembly to the associated pipeline system and conducting according to the daily pumping orders. Unit standard authorization procedure. The rate of the procedure transfer of any other tank would be same as except for the valve position between the tank and the pump. Caution: backflow. Make sure that no flow of the pipeline system is in the tactical petroleum terminal to prevent overpressure. Caution: trapping high pressure between closed valves can be damage to the equipment. Supervising depressurization draining system. Warning: pressurized systems do not break open any flanges open in any couplings until the system is depressurized at the location an injury can result. No, after a tactical petroleum terminal commissioned and placed operation, it will be necessary for the time depressurization drain various parts of the system maintenance assembly throughout the operation maintenance instruction of the manual. The reader warned its depressurization system before breaking opening flanges, couplings, and other closures. This avoids the spill sprays that fuel injuries personnel causing a fire hazard. Following disclosure and procedures recommendation to pressurization draining. Ensure emergency procedures are known and trained regularly, known and minimum to make personnel aware of the actions and should take the following situations: fire hose line break, serious leak, fabric tank rupture, serious leak, break, serious leak on the pump, serious spills due to the operating area, overflowing of the tank, supervising preparation, storage, pressure. Warning: pressurized systems do not break open any flange is opening. Any couple of the system is depressurized at the location injury fuel spills can result. Ensure depressurization draining system is conducted according to the standard authorization procedure. The entire TPT hose line system should be pumped and drained in the fabricated collapsible tanks to the extent possible. Fuel tanks can be pumped in the tanker trucks and disposal is closed to the operating authority. Performance: ensuring the disassembly of the cleaning of the system conducted according to the unit standard authorization procedure, following the guidelines for the area to disassemble and cleaning of the system and each type of equipment. Warning: to avoid explosion of the fire, you use only explosion-proof electrical equipment, enforcing no smoking rules around all areas in the tanks of the equipment that are being cleaned. Clean and dry. Caution: clean and dry. All equipment must be clean and dry to prevent preservation packaging. Water results in corrosion, mildew, regeneration, deterioration, depending on the material. Construction fuel left in the equipment may be a fire hazard during the transportation and storage. Dirt debris can cause corrosion, can be damaged equipment. Very fabric collapsible tanks are dried and disassembled. Warning: fuel spills. Spills can result from saturated soil and cause a potential fire or a hazard. Warning: death, serious injury may result from the exposure of toxic flammable vapors and sufficient oxygen inside the petroleum tanks. Do not enter the tank unless the atmospheric inside has been tested at technically qualified safety, health, and personnel to determine acceptable entry conditions. Warning. If any of the fuel vapor sludge remains in the tank and any oxygen deficiency exists, the tank must be treated in permanent required confined space. No one may enter a permanent required confined space without approval with a qualified safety health and personnel without required personnel, protective equipment, clothing and equipment, rescue, emergency services, safety equipment training, and safety equipment and training, standing personnel, written permit, and explosive atmospheric existence within the tank. The tank presence and immediate hazard to safety and must not be entered in the circumstances death, serious injury may result if the precautions are not followed. Disassembly, draining the dry hose lines. All hose lines must be completely dry inside and clean on the outside of the capping before repacking. All recommended all hose lines to be tagged. Identification disassembly cited and prior to the transportation of them, inspecting the packing of area, displacing the evacuation hose in the line in the system. Because of potential fire and explosion following the safety regulations must be followed. There shall be no smoking allowed within 100 feet of the displacement evacuation operation. Smoking shall be restricted to those areas designated for smokes, safe smoking areas. Fuel spills of cleanup and properly used and absorbent material disposed of the used material is designated location. Fuel, saturated soil, fire hazards, access to spill areas should be restricted to the use of the appropriate action is taken in the cleanup and the complete. Inspect 4-inch hose lines that are to be drained, flushed, water dried, and capped. Inspect hose lines smaller than 4 inches must be drained, flushed, and dried without benefit of displacement and evacuation. Inspection aluminum fittings, keys, elbows, nipples, and adapters, so forth. And swab, clean, and fit dry fittings should be tagged in the time the removal of the added identification during the re-packing and box fittings. Inspecting coupling clamps and gaskets. Inspecting valves and valve assembly, drain, clean, and dry valve assembly. Inspect the pressure regulating valve assembly, pressure control valve assembly. These items can be fully drained and swabbed, cleaned, and dried inside and outside of the country. Control piloting manifold must be thoroughly drained below through the vents and well aided doing this. Inspect meter of skid assembly, meter strain assembly. The items must be drained and swabbed and dry externally. Inspect pumps and engines. Pumps are removed and the system thoroughly drained. Do not drain the engine crankcase of the full tank at this time. The equipment must be washed during externally and dried as long as no water is allowed inside the equipment. Inspect the floodlight set. The floodlight set are to be disassembled, clean, washed down, equipment thoroughly dry. Inspect the fire suppression equipment, inspection miscellaneous equipment. Miscellaneous equipment is swabbed and cleaned and dried and tagged. External wash, and some equipment is permissible if there is no chance of getting water inside the equipment. Inspecting for collapsible tanks, inspect aluminum fittings, inspect coupling, clamping gaps or gaskets, inspect the valves and valve assemblies, inspect the pressure regulating valves assemblies, pressure control valve assemblies, inspect meter skid assembly, meter strain assembly, inspect pumps and engines, proceed the preservation accordance to TM 4320, 305, and 10, and 600 gallons per minute hose line pump, and TM 432022614, or TM 10 or 350 gallon per minute. Inspect flood sites, proceed the preservation according to TM 963221114. Inspect the file suppression equipment, proceed the preservation in accordance with the TM 104210 through 35. 13. Inspect the miscellaneous equipment thoroughly. Inspect making any prior repairs necessary. Pass damaged equipment through appropriate maintenance authority disposition, lubricating paint in accordance with the TM 430139. If applicable, maintain records of accountability petroleum products according to operations unit standard authorization procedures. Provide supervisor daily upon completion of the shift. See task and standards. That's your tactical petroleum terminals. Applied risk management procedure, ensured environmental standards, procedures are following the according critical task 10192 F2401. Ensured personnel read and understand unit installation standard, authorization order, environmental requisitions, storing, handling, and disposing of hazardous materials. Forced wearing of the appropriate personnel protective equipment before, during, and after operations of preventive maintenance check services system components. According to standard authorization, appropriate TMs, ensured personnel record of the fault found in the preventive maintenance check services on the DA form 2404, DA form 5988E. Enter communication nets, monitor communication flows accordance with the Unit in Standard Optimization Communication Electronic Operation CEOI. Ensure international cleaning of all equipment in the way of valves and fittings and hose lines and installing. Supervise placement of the major end of the items in accordance with the layout plan. Supervise setup of the fuel dispensing assembly. Supervise installation of the tanker truck, receipt, manifolds, hose line, valves, and fittings. Supervise installation of switching manifolds. Supervise installation of contaminated fuel module, hose line, assembly, valves, and fittings. Supervise installation and transfer hose lines, assembly, valves, and fittings. Supervise installation, optional tank configuration, hose line, valves, and fittings. Supervise placing of the safety signs, go or no go. Prepared technical petroleum terminal for operation. Supervise operation of the technical petroleum terminal. Supervise preparation of storage. 19 records of accountability petroleum products according to the operation ordinance in the unit standard operating procedures provided by the supervisor daily upon completion of the shift. Supervisors go to the all performance measured until the schedule as the performance is measured is failed. The soldier is scored a no go if the soldier has done wrong and how to do it correctly. DF form 1804, 2404, 3643, 4913, and 598E. In field manual 1067-1, visual signs, TM 1042, 10 235 13, TM 543 22 305 10, TM 543 32 11 12, TM 9 23 33 56 14, TA APAM 70 10 22, the APAM 758, field manual 3100, and field manual 3104. Alright, tomorrow we'll start out with skill level 3, subject area, directing general petroleum operations.